So it's all for play for still.
I think so. Do you want to bet against us?
Hello, Aston Villa fans, and welcome to For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast. I nearly forgot the name of the podcast there for a moment. That's worrying. Well, it's not really because I haven't been doing as much podcasting as I normally would do. So maybe that's why I've nearly forgotten the name of my own podcast. But just wanted to jump on and mark what I feel is a really, really good occasion today: the official signing of Pau Torres. We always knew it was going to happen. I don't think there was ever any danger that it wasn't going to happen. It's a funny one actually because last night and this morning I did see a few tweets just bringing up the fact that Mathieu Alman didn't sign for Aston Villa, even though we all thought that he would sign as CEO, president, whatever the hell he would have signed as. And he didn't come in, and a lot of people were kind of wondering when this would happen. But Pau Torres was on holidays; he was on honeymoon, should I say, after getting married. So it was always a case of, letting him go away, enjoy his time, a very special time, the second most special occasion in his life of getting married to the woman that he loves. I presume he loves her, and then obviously getting that out of the way, and then having the most important occasion of his life and sign for Aston Villa once he came back. And today he did sign for Aston Villa, so absolutely delighted. It gives us lots of options at the back. I initially, when Pau Torres was mentioned, and when it was mentioned that he was signed, I initially didn't really get fully 100% on board with the three at the back conversation that was happening. I can certainly see it as an option now, and I'm very much more amiable towards it. Obviously, depending if we bring in another right back to challenge Matty Cash, I think that we could see something along those lines of maybe three at the back. But for now, all available options and all available evidence, should I say, points to the fact that we're going to play four at the back. I still might be the only lone voice in the podcasting world that says we're not going to sign or we're not going to sign a centre half and put him out there specifically to usurp Matty Cash to play that inverted right back, based on the fact that Unai Emery has done that only at Villarreal. Now he may do that. He may very well end up doing that, and I'm okay with being wrong, but I'm just not fully convinced that that's what he wants to do. And obviously, if he goes to three at the back, that's not what he will do at all, because you can't afford to have somebody out there that can do that. Obviously, the wing back might be somebody that might pull into midfield, Philip Lam style, as opposed to John Stones style, as being that kind of centre half that comes inside a small bit more. But Pau Torres is absolutely delighted. Do you know what really kind of delights me as well? Is the fact that the price was right too. The price was something that we didn't have to break our transfer record to sign him. You see, some people have equated that to the fact that, maybe he isn't good enough, maybe he isn't, maybe it's not. Like, why didn't other clubs or other teams come in from? That's fine. People can have that take. It's a valid question. It's a valid question. I've learned something over this off season. I find this off season maybe has been a small bit more. Every club in the league has been touchy. Every club's fans in the league this off season has been very touchy, and they've been absolutely leaping two-footed to the defense of their team. 100% should be done, no problem whatsoever. But I think a lot of teams are a lot of clubs are looking at what's happening in Saudi Arabia, what's also rumored to be happening at other clubs. We're going spending bazillions of euros as well, and I think clubs are boxing clever at this moment in time. There's no need to go and blow your load this early in. It would be brilliant to do it. Everybody loves, and I'm doing this on purpose, but everybody loves to to go away and spend a lot of money at the start of a transfer window, and I can see the reason for it. Obviously, get the people in before you go away in your tour to the States, and we may very well do that. But there's nothing to say that the long season that is ahead of us will be massively impacted by not bringing by the fact that we might bring two players when we're mid tour in America, or even when we come back from the States. We will still have time, and it's a longer season for us this season. And I think with what's gone on in Saudi, what's a lot of other clubs looking to spend money. Let Arsenal get it out of the way, spending that money on Declan Rice. There's going to be another kick on in that instance that West Ham are probably going to then. Well, they're not probably. They're going to have 100 million to go spend as well. So you can look at it in two ways. You can let the market level out, or you can go and spend tons of money now on players that you may overpay for. Whereas there's never any guarantee that West Ham are going to be looking after the same players that Villa are going to be looking at, and vice versa. And the one player I seem to always come back to on this is that we didn't get involved, or it looks like we if rumors are to be believed, and never believe rumors, but if they are to be believed, as the great Douglas Renham from the IT crowd said, there was rumors that there were rumors, but they turned out to be bullshit. Which is one of the greatest quotes in sitcom comedy of all time. And Douglas Renham is the most underrated character in any comedy show as well. But back to the point I was making was that. Look, we can be linked with 95,000 players between now and the end of the season. And yes, if we are now and the end of the transfer window, and yes, if we're linked with 95,000, I'll probably do a show on 94,000 of them. But you know, it's not lost on me, and I know it's not lost on a lot of you guys as well, that like sometimes names are plucked out of a hat when an article has been written. And some players, there will be some validity to some of it, and some players will be signed by other clubs that maybe Villa were in for. But that's the nature of the chase of a player. Everybody is different hierarchy of needs. Everybody is different wants, that they want to get from a club. Everybody works with different people in different ways. Maybe some people that we want to sign aren't going to be down the route of an Unai Emery, of his methodical coaching. Maybe they don't want to learn. Maybe they want to come in and play a specific way. Maybe Newcastle take one or two players that we were looking at because they've got Champions League football. It would be silly of me not to be aware of that situation, should I say. And I've got absolutely no idea where this conversation came out of. And I'm trying to remember why I went down this avenue of talking about this, but I think it was to do with signing lots and lots of players early in the transfer window. But I am glad that we've signed Pau Torres. Yes, I remember what it was now. It was the fact that we didn't go away and spend a ton of money on him, and why other teams weren't in for him. And we've gotten a good player. I think that it's not even up for debate that we've gotten a really good player. We've gotten a player that Unai Emery has gotten the best out of him before, and it's like it fans of other clubs can question it, newspapers can question it, paper never refused ink, all that kind of stuff. But we can sit here and we can be over the moon as well, but we won't know until he pulls on a Villa shirt and goes out and plays in this team. But all available evidence, as I always say, is that this guy's going to be a really good footballer. We're going to really take to him. And I think he's going to take to the league as well. And we've got a real sturdy back. We've got a real sturdy set of four, if not five, if you want to include Callum Chambers in there, 5 centre halves that other teams must be looking at us going, yeah, they are pretty stacked in that area. Brilliant problem to have. I'm going to come to some of your comments there because I went off on a bit of a tangent there for a while. This is the last podcast. Maybe not the last podcast, maybe the second last podcast I'll be doing without Paddy. Paddy's going to be taking he's going to be coming back from his séjour tomorrow. I think he's back, or maybe the day after. So we will get him back on and we will get him to chat about all things that he's missed. He didn't really missed much anyway since we've been out. But so this will be the last one I'll be doing solo as well. So Ian says, excellent news regarding Torres. Now on to Diaby and Felix. I'm of those two. I'm more excited about Diaby. Do you know what? I'm going to put up some old threads or some old bits and pieces I had on João Felix, because I think a lot of people have soured on João Felix. I haven't soured on him. Don't get me wrong, but look, sign him. Absolutely sign him. I think he fits into this team perfectly. But Moussa Diaby for me is really exciting. he's really exciting for what he can bring. And I don't think it's an either or in that instance between Diaby or Felix. I think that it's like we will sign two attackers, probably one wider player and one person. We just have to sign somebody that can come in instead of Ollie Watkins if things aren't going right or if he gets injured, or somebody that can play alongside him when we need to play two people up front. Because we've got two strikers and Cameron Archer, but we need a third. I think we need a third in there for rotational purposes as well, throughout the course of the season. Matthew White says top class signing and our back line is now unreal. I think fit, all players fit, and firing. We have a really, really enviable defense, and Unai Emery can set up a defense. So that's always from that point of view for sure. Let me just look up some of the other comments as there's dogs barking outside. If you guys can hear it, I do apologize. Where are my comments, Kanta? Where are my comments, Kanta? Before I pull up some of Pau Torres' stats. Sai, good to see you, Sai. Sai says, so chuffed about this signing. I can't stop smiling. Now to start our front positions. Yep, I think John Townley said it today as well. The next few names or the next few signings that we should see, or the next few attempted signings that we should see, will be attackers. And you know what? If we're getting this excited over defensive minded players, and Tielemans obviously can play both directions, we should be getting excited about attackers, and we'll talk about those in a moment. We get on to Joe Felix, and I've always been a big proponent of. I would not be surprised to see a 30-plus-year-old striker, or a 30-year-old, or somebody over 30-year-old striker come in here that Unai Emery feels can come in here, do a job for us, take minutes when needed, and perform in his system as well. I just have this hang up on it that it seems like it's something like Unai Emery would do, and that it would be a situation where people would be looking at it and going, oh my God, what if Aston Villa spent 5 million on X striker that nobody expected them to sign? And then he turns out then to be a bit of a real contributor throughout the course of the season. I don't know. Maybe I've got too much trust in Unai Emery, but it's something he's done at clubs previously. And, he may very well do it at Villa, but that's neither here nor there for our conversation as well. Somebody asked, who do I think Emery's first choice centre-back pairing will be? I think Ezri Konsa and Tyrone Mings are the first choice centre-back pairing now. And I think that that will not be the case throughout the course of this season. I think at some stage that we will see centre halves fall in and out of form. And I'm also going to say that if it is that, I'm not even sure it will be a pairing. Might be a thruple, might be in there. So I'm excited. I'm open to anything at the back of our defense. That is, I'm open to anything. However he wants to set up our back line, whether it's in a back three or a back four, or back four. Whether he wants to go to back seven, back eight, I don't really care. As I say, I'm open to seeing it in action, and I think that's why we're not going to see it at Walsall at the weekend. But I think when we get out to the States, I think from game 2 probably onwards, definitely game 3, we're gonna have a full idea of what Unai wants to do and how he wants to play, specifically from a defensive setup. And I think it's right, because our defensive setup is then going to dictate what we're going to do as we go further forward with regards to formationally. A lot of people, well, not a lot of people, if the remote property flipper inside here, I often chat to him on Twitter. He was wondering what would happen if we were to buy a wider player and maybe a second striker like a Felix and a Diaby. And if that was the case, how would they fit in there? But based on the formation that we play now at the moment, we could play that in certain games. But if we were to go to 3 at the back, it really opens it up for us to go with more attacking players at the top of the pitch, in the knowledge that, if you play Boubacar Kamara in there and he shields that back 3, to a certain degree. I'm not saying he plays in that traditional number 6 role, but even if he does shield that back 3 and be that workhorse that's in there while the back 3 stay back there, well, then it does give us the impetus to play maybe 2 wingers, maybe a Bailey one side, a Diaby the other side, play a Watkins up top, maybe play play one of these newfangled formations that we saw last year with 4 up top at times. Why can't Aston Villa do that if we have the right players to do it? So I think a lot. I think it's a really good question you ask, Paul, here about the who will. But I think it should be rephrased to who will Unai Emery's first choice centre halves be, as opposed to pairing, because we may not see it in there as a pairing. But it's one of the brilliant questions that we will find out that will be answered through through the off season or through the preseason, and I'm delighted for it. I'm really looking for it. Excuse me for coughing. I'm going to scroll down here a small bit. Dream Villain says, after seeing his video for leaving Villarreal, so emotional, really need to get behind him and make him feel welcome. Fantastic signing for us. Yeah, you know, obviously he's somebody that it was a difficult decision for him to make. Once again, you could make the argument that that's probably why he hasn't signed for a bigger club last season. Maybe it wrangled with him. Maybe the big thing that brought him out of that situation was he wasn't comfortable maybe leaving the club. Maybe it takes him a couple of months to settle in at Villa Park. That's a very real possibility too. But maybe it's Uncle Unai. Maybe it's that father figure that he had for a couple of years. Father figure being loose term, but that person he trusts that was over Villarreal, brought him success at Villarreal, is now over Aston Villa. Maybe that was the tipping point, and for all available evidence, once again, suggests that is the tipping point here. Maybe he wasn't comfortable. Maybe he's the type of guy that needs to go to a club, and there needs to be from the point of view, maybe he's shy. Maybe maybe his English isn't the best, and he certainly maybe he doesn't speak German or doesn't. You know what I'm getting at here. So a lot of teams are kind of saying, "Oh, why isn't he gone to somewhere like Bayern Munich? Why isn't he gone to Paris Saint-Germain?" Yes, we can understand that he could have stayed and he could have played with Barcelona or he could have played with Real Madrid or whoever. Maybe they didn't come in for him. Like, where does he fit starting the Real Madrid two centre halves? And I know Barcelona were looking for centre halves last season, but I would argue that they've got their centre half situation nailed down for years to come. With Kunde, with what's his name, is it Araujo and Christensen. I would argue that that's locked down for at least 5-6 years. That even though they play Kunde out at right back. So there's lots of reasons why he didn't make that move, and maybe he was waiting for the move that was right for him. Because, as I say, he's a Villarreal kid, born in the province of Castellon, and he it's his boyhood club. It's his Jack Grealish moment having to leave that club, albeit that he's moved on to a team in a different country. So for me, that emotion I think is real, obviously, because he referenced the fact he was leaving teammates, he was leaving family, he was leaving loads of people behind. Um, and as I say, maybe that ties into the fact that the move for him had to be right. Financially, it's going to be really right for him. Like, let's not dance around that bush. But financially, it's going to be really, really right for him. Coming to the Premier League gets lots of eyes on him. And yeah, as I say, the Unai Emery factor could have been the huge thing, um, that drove him over the line. But I'm, as I say, absolutely chuffed to have him, and I think that I think that he's definitely um, he will. To me, himself and Tielemans have been absolutely superb business for Aston Villa this season. Superb business. Tielemans and Pau Torres for 32.5 million. Where is the negative? Where is the negative based on everything they've done before in their careers? Yes, we might look back at this in 5 years' time and go, "Oh God, we're after signing Sasa Churchic and Neil Cox." For any of you of a certain vintage, and I'm probably being unfair on Neil Cox because he wasn't even that bad. But we could look back at it at that stage. But based now on the 12th of July, looking here at it and all available evidence, once again, it's about the 5th time I've said that in this podcast. This is fantastic business. And there will be teams that will look back at these two signs, or are looking at these two signs and going, Villa have been shrewd and Villa have been good and Villa are being methodical in this transfer market. And what's next to come, I suppose, in a market that has been pretty wild this off season so far. Where are we? And just for the record, I think with the Joe Felix stuff, I want him signed. Don't get me wrong. I just have an awful feeling that Joe Felix is PSG bound, and this is another Asensio moment. I don't know why. I just have this massive feeling in it. But if he ends up in claret and blue at the end of the season, I could certainly see it. Let's look at some of Pau Torres' stats, and then we'll actually get on to Joe Felix because there's a lot of comments about himself and Diaby there. I did a piece on Diaby last night. I would be ever so chuffed if you guys went and watched it again, or watched it if you didn't see it last night. But let's take a little look at Pau Torres. These are some slides I did some time ago. When it was first announced that he was going to sign for Aston Villa, just to refresh our mind again about how he stacks up with our other three incumbents. Now, I don't have Diego Carlos here. I did promise somebody I would add Diego Carlos to this. I'm just after remembering I did that now to add him here with his Sevilla statistics from 2 years ago. I've forgotten it. I might do it later on, post it to Twitter because it will be an interesting look. Excuse me. So obviously here what we can see is that you know um the biggest areas here are how he's going to progress that ball forward and his ball playing ability. You People have read countless articles on Pau Torres at this stage. Every podcast has done about 19 different podcasts on him at this stage. This is just a little refresher, and I'm sure people have probably even listened to some Spanish, English speaking Spanish podcasts on Pau Torres to get to know him better. Um, he is a very accomplished defender. Statistic wise, you're going to look and you're going to pick holes in certain parts of him. Is he going to be physical enough for the league? Well, let's find out. Let's find out. If you're going to sit there and you're going to say, is he going to be physical enough for the league when he's never played in the league? Yet he's played international football and lived up to the rigors of international football. Excuse me. Well, let's see what he's like in the league. Um, Maybe he won't be the person that's tasked with fronting up to the centre halves. I mentioned this on the podcast I did. Maybe he isn't. Maybe he's the person that's taught how to win every free under the sun, like Ezri Konsa is. Because let's be honest, Ezri Konsa is superb at that. Really, really good at. There is metrics about frees given to you as opposed to against you. But I don't have it marked anywhere. Ezri Konsa was far away ahead of everybody else in the league with that last season. But look, the progressive passes thing, something we're going to continue to talk about. Everybody outside of our strikers are going to need to be very progressive with how they get that ball forward. We're going to sign. I firmly believe we're going to sign more pace within our attack, and they're going to be the people who are going to be tasked with carrying the ball forward. But we want to be multifaceted in our attack. We want to be able to attack through the Alex Morenos and the wings like we did previously, or potentially the Diabys and the wings, or the Leon Baileys with the wings. I don't think Leon. Well, I think Leon Bailey might be for sale. I don't think anyone's paying the price we want for him. And I think he's going to be a viable member of the squad this season. As I've said before, I think it's going to be adding to him as opposed to be subtracting him. And if we do subtract him, I think we need to add two people potentially, two wingers to the team. So it's going to be interesting. It will definitely be interesting to see what happens there in the wing positions. And once again, don't be surprised if we sign somebody that isn't absolute top tier or upper echelon. Like, we could go away and we could sign somebody that people are looking at going, oh, didn't expect that signing. And like, nobody expected the Alex Moreno signing. It's not because of that I'm saying this. It's because there are multiple different ways to win matches, and we don't even know the half of of how good managers do that. And Unai Emery is a good manager, so it's going to be very interesting from that point of view. But Pau Torres is a great start. Absolutely great start to our paid purchases to the window this far. A couple of you guys were talking about Dybala, Paulo Dybala. I can't see him leaving Roma. Maybe he does. I don't know. I haven't seen anything on it. Haven't mentioned it, or haven't seen anybody talking. Anything written about him moving. I did see the piece that Emmy Martinez did with, I think it was Dybala's wife for whatever reason, or a girlfriend, and talking about maybe trying to get him to come here. But I think he's Roma. I think he's locked up at Roma. And great player. Don't get me wrong, great player, but I think he needs. I think he's loved at Roma. Roma are a club that when they take somebody to their heart, they really take them to their heart. You got to remember. You just got to look back at what they did with Totti. Obviously, that he was a childhood supporter of that club, but even there's been players down through the years, Abel Balbo, people who go back to him. And a couple more that they've taken to heart as well. So when they get a striker that they like, they really like him at Roma. So I can see him staying there for sure. Um, where else are we? I'm just looking at some of the other comments here now as well. Nice group of Josh Dunn mentions here about a nice group of Spanish speaking players as well. Yeah, I can imagine that, you know, the transition to the club or coming in here will be a lot easier. We've got a lot of South Americans culturally, it's a culturally diverse excuse me, dressing room with a very big hint of Spanish, Portuguese, Brazilian, South American flair to it as well, which is going to be fantastic for both Torres to try and get in there as well. Biff asks anything else in the Musa Diaby rumors. I think L'Equipe had it today that we've made an opening offer, or made opening conversations or something like that, but nothing much else. Nothing much else at all. Where else are we there? A couple of people talking about Nanto as well. I talked for way too long about Nanto on the podcast about Musa Diaby. Just some concerns I have with Nanto and longevity within the league. But I think he's on his way to Everton anyway, so I don't think we got to worry about that. Joe Felix, let's take a look at this now. Some of these I did this in January. Was it January or was it December when we were linked with him? It might have been December when we were linked with him. Obviously, he's gone on to play with Chelsea since these statistics do not reflect his time at Chelsea, just his time at Atletico Madrid. Reason I didn't add these Chelsea statistics into this is very simply because it's absolutely impossible to judge anybody at all, on being managed by Frank Lampard and that Chelsea team last year. It's impossible. Impossible. It was historically bad. The run of results, the management, the feeling around the club. It was just really bad. And I wouldn't write any player off, and I wouldn't write any player on because of what happened at Chelsea last season. But João Felix obviously is somebody who has been building through the years. He's had a pretty how would I put it, a pretty meteoric rising career so far, and he's only 23, 24. 24 years of age. Obviously, we know him from he was like moved for over 100 million to Atletico Madrid after 1.5 full seasons, I think, at Benfica. He's been at Madrid since. His record, I suppose, his scoring record really is he's got about one in just shy of a 1-in-4 record. For somebody who's like that second striker, that attacking midfielder that been played out in the out wide right, wide left, played at number 10, played as a number 9 as well. He's still averaging about a 1-in-4, just better than a 1-in-4 in all competitions so far. Looking at his statistics here, with regard, he's a very creative player, really creative player. Plays on that left hand side as we see here for Atletico. He played in that left hand side, but in comparison, and once again, we see our old mate Danny Ings is in there because that's when I did this. Danny Ings was still an Aston Villa football player at that time. The statistics, I must admit, the statistics for Ollie Watkins haven't been updated, as you can see. Just look at that statistic list for Ollie Watkins in comparison to how he finished the season. Ridiculous turn of form he had. So that's where he was it must have been early December when we were linked with João Felix. It just must have been when we were initially linked with João Felix. And how Ollie Watkins turned the season around for himself and for Aston Villa is spectacular. We could have very easily been a Wolves if we didn't have a striker that was as on form as Ollie Watkins for that second half of the season. So just bear that in mind. So I haven't updated the statistics for them either on this. So that's also worth bearing in mind. But João Felix, Atletico, this is how he played. When we look at him in comparison to the other strikers we had at the time, shot creating actions, goal creating actions. Um, he's just a creator. He's a real creative. Creative presence. I think when he's on the field, gets criticized for drifting in and out of games sometimes. I think we saw that at Chelsea. Um, got sent off and was he got sent off and was banned for 3 games or whatever, which didn't exactly help his cause. He still scored 4 goals in 20 appearances in all competitions last season. So um, it wasn't a complete and utter disaster for them. But when we look at him, he's somebody who can take the ball. He's somebody who's comfortable with a lot of work with the ball as well. As I say, for a central striker, his statistics are really really good. Um, from the point of view of just being rounded, being a rounded player, working in and out of possession, and also doing the donkey work. He's only 23 years of age as well. Like 23 years of age, he's 65 senior career goals scored. Pretty decent record, for somebody who, and there are people who say that he wouldn't be good enough for us. May very well be right. Was he worth 120 million or whatever Madrid played for him? No, no. I think in hindsight, hindsight proves that. I don't think he was worth that, but certainly a talented player. And at 23 years of age, certainly not somebody who should be cast upon the scrap heap. Did read as well, and some people have been mentioning to me previously that potentially he might be a bad egg in the dressing room. Anybody in the comments want to enlighten me on that? I just haven't seen anything. I don't know whether it's the case or not. I know there was talk that he fell out with Simeone, but let's be honest, I would imagine Simeone is a hard taskmaster. I'd imagine he would ask an awful lot of you. I'd imagine he'd get right in your face. I'd imagine his management style is nothing like Unai Emery's. Remember when I spoke about Pau Torres? I don't know what type of guy Pau Torres is, by the way. I couldn't tell you. Pau Torres could be somebody who in his first night in Birmingham streaks naked through the bull ring. I have no idea how introvert or extrovert he is. I'm just saying he could be that type of player, that maybe that's why he didn't move. And conversely as well, Joe Felix might be that type of player that's kind of felt that an overbearing kind of pressure, an overbearing type of manager that potentially Simeone is, or maybe the fact that Simeone was playing too defensively because he was protecting his job for parts of the season before last, and you know, um, maybe he felt that wasn't playing to his strengths. Maybe when he looks at Unai Emery and maybe sits down with Unai Emery and talks to Unai Emery, maybe they realise that they're more simpatico in their thought process for where João Felix is now, or how he's progressed, or how he's matured as a player. So there's lots of intricacies and idiosyncrasies with regards to that are taken into account during transfers, or at least they should be. Because if you can't work with someone, you shouldn't sign them. Save for the absolutely transgenerational brilliant players out there. Like, I'm sure if I couldn't get on with Lionel Messi, I'd still sign him. Put it that way, because he's that good a player. So obviously there are exceptions to the rule there, but in the main, don't sign dickheads. Don't sign people that you think are dickheads. Not everybody thinks a dickhead is a dickhead. So that's my TED talk on that one for tonight. As I said previously, I don't think I think he's a fit for Aston Villa. I think as a second striker, I think that absolutely is. I just don't think he signs for Villa. I think he signs for PSG. I just have it since the start of the transfer window. I've just seen him as okay. PSG are going to look for attacking players. They're going to have a bit of a squad rebuild, if you want to call it that. And I think somebody like João Felix is somebody that they would take, that would come into play under Luis Enrique. Who wouldn't want to do that? I think he's definitely going to go. He definitely would move to PSG if they put a bid in for him. And once again, Villa wouldn't be able to match that. Like, let's not fool ourselves here. Villa wouldn't be able to match that, and that's cool. That's not talking down Villa. That's talking up somebody like a Luis Enrique and what PSG can offer, because they still haven't won the Champions League, but they still believe that they can every year. And we need to get into the Champions League to believe that we can win the Champions League every year. And that's just the different areas that we're operating in the European sphere at the moment, which is completely okay. Gary Howlett says rather keep Bailey than sign Felix. I would not be averse to having both of them. As I say, I think it's addition rather than subtraction with Leon Bailey. But could again be 1,000,000% wrong on that one. Felix is too expensive, Mr. Sensible says. I do agree with you on that. I agree we will have to spend a boatload of cash on him. And I believe that he will be expensive. But I'm not 100% sure if expensive is a bad thing. Like if he comes in and scores 25 goals for Aston Villa next season, quality will be remembered long after the price is forgotten. Great friend of mine once told me that. Quality will be remembered long after the price is forgotten. So he's expensive if he flops. And that's the danger, I suppose, really. That's the danger. So I do agree. Where are we? Where are we? Where else are we? I did say I was going to talk about something else there a moment ago. Did I say what I was going to talk about something else a moment ago? If I did, somebody please remind me in the comments there. Adamski says Vlahovic to PSG. I don't think that they would be operating out of a one or the other situation with João Felix or Vlahovic. And if you were to offer me either of those two players, I'm taking Vlahovic all day, every week, twice on a Sunday, and 4 times on whatever day Aston Villa are playing. Because I think he is made for the Premier League. Just made for the Premier League. Then again, you can find articles out there about him that question his contribution within the dressing room as well. So, Dusan Vlahovic, I'm a fan. Sai asks, is Sinisalo going to Exeter? Yes, he signed for Exeter today, as far as I'm aware. Year-long loan, which for me is a bit confusing. Why am I talking about our third, potentially fourth choice goalkeeper? Potentially second choice goalkeeper. Why am I talking about that? I think it's confusing from the point of view that he, if I'm not mistaken, and I often am, regularly and 3 or 4 times per podcast, if I'm not mistaken, he could have counted towards a homegrown player for the quota, for the European quota. So now I know we'll have other players that will be able to step up to the mark and do that. That's it's not a concern for me. We will be able to fill that quota. It shouldn't be a concern for anybody at all. We will fill that quota. No problem. But I just thought maybe with the third goalkeeper might be the easier option, but we'll see. Best of luck to him at Exeter, and hopefully he comes back and challenges for our second choice goalkeeper, or maybe even balls out at Exeter and becomes our first choice goalkeeper when Emi Martinez retires as an Aston Villa footballer. You thought I was going to say get sold, didn't you? You have little faith. You should know me and my optimism, don't you? You should know me and my optimism right now. This is really becoming a Q&A. I love it. Michael Kane asks, are we still going to sign a right back? I believe we will. I don't have any reason to believe other than I have a gut feeling that we will sign a right back. For reasons I've mentioned before. He could very easily transition Konza over to right back, but he could just as easily go out and sign a right back. I still don't think the Thomas Meunier deal is dead. Or that it's any closer, it's any further away. It was a link that made sense. I think right back competition could be a purchase that we see comes in that's a low amount. Yeah, but I do think we will have more right back cover. Because the only other option that we have if we don't have other right back cover is to move Konza over there and transition him to being a right back. And while it could very easily happen, it's I suppose it has its risks in itself. So it will be interesting. Once again, it will be really interesting to see what happens over the course of this offseason as our tactical makeup becomes more apparent. Because Unai Emery may not want to play the way he did last season in the coming season, depending on the personnel that he gets in. So that's going to be really interesting. Adamski, you've noticed I've left a lot of avenues open. I've left an awful lot of doors open, and I've said I could very well be wrong in a lot of situations. I don't think Unai can work a miracle with Olsen. As in, I don't think there's any stage during the season that Olsen takes over our number one jersey in place of Emi Martinez. I don't think that that's the case. I think Unai is only so good. I think he's only so good. But I wonder will Olsen be at the club? Is where I'm getting at with that. That could be the miracle of selling him for a fee. If Unai Emery can work a miracle of selling him for a fee, that can be considered as a miracle. I think. And look, let's not go too fitted in Robin Olsen either. Look, um, as I say, we all have signings that don't work out, and Robin Olsen. I'd say it again, and all available evidence that we had over the course of last season, Robin Olsen didn't really work out because of the goals we conceded and the goals that we shipped at, specifically during the cup competitions, and then when he was called upon during the Premier League season as well. Any other questions out there, guys? Any other questions? Oh, someone calling for a loan move for Greenwood. No thanks. No, thank you. Unless there's another Greenwood out there that isn't man who we shall not name by his full name. No, I think he does get a loan. I think he does get a loan out of the Premier League. Then is Man United's decision to make whatever they want with him. Not going to spend too much time talking about it. Frank Kessie. Did I ever do a podcast on Frank Kessie? Any aficionados of the podcast out there want to? I did. Did I do it? Did I do a Frank Kessie podcast? Because do you know what? Bear with me there now on this. This is where I need to get Paddy to come back now so that I can do some. I can start looking at things I haven't done previously while he's filling time for me. What I'm going to do is I have some slides on Frank Kessie, but I need to upload them. So let's talk a small bit about Frank Kessie. Once again, these are not updated slides. These are slides that I did probably in January. I think we were linked with him then. Yeah, so I've seen more links with Frank Kessie recently. Once again, I think Barcelona have gotten really, really good at using the. Well, maybe they've always been good at it, and I just haven't really noticed. But I think they've gotten really good at using the media to throw little bits of snippets out there and then pull them back again. Like I think they've done an awful. They've been trying it with Ansu Fati. They've been throwing it out there. Oh, Barcelona are going to sell Ansu Fati. No, actually, no, they're not going to sell him. He's going to stay. Ferran Torres is not going to be sold, but and he knows where he wants to go. These little bits of snippets that are being thrown out there. And Frank Kessie is somebody that, for Barcelona, they got him on a free, if I'm not mistaken, I think, from AC Milan. And now, obviously, what they sell him for is going to be pure profit. The amortization, I can never remember which one it is, based on the contract that he signed, then will be full profit in our accounting system. As we know, Barcelona need to be all over their accounting system to try and keep themselves within the FFP that the Spanish league has. So maybe he is somebody that's in play. I think he's, Premier League is probably a good spot for him. Let's just take a little look at him. Once again, not updated since the last time that we were linked with him, whenever that was. But looking at him statistically here in comparison to John McGinn, Ramsey, and Douglas Luiz, and once again, as I said, all these numbers are from some time ago. He kind of fitted in there as somebody that was will come in and do a job for Aston Villa that was really, really steady. He was having a bad season himself. He had a poor time at Barcelona when these statistics were taken. His time at AC Milan was an awful lot more fruitful, scored a lot more goals, was a lot more effective in Serie A, came into Barcelona and didn't show that effectiveness. So, excuse me, from a statistical point of view, I think looking at him there, obviously, we can see from his heat map, he prefers that left-hand side of the field. He's a very good player. He's a player that would elevate our squad. he's a player that could come in and as I say, I think he's made for the Premier League. But it's just another one I just don't see end up happening at Aston Villa. I'd like to talk about him more if he did, but for the time being, it's very difficult to discuss him because of the poor time he's had at Barcelona. It's just been so poor at Barcelona, and in comparison to his time at AC Milan. So um, it's difficult to discuss where he is in his career right now at this moment in time. If he could refine that form that he had at AC Milan and at Atlanta previous to that, hell yeah, sign him up, put him in claret and blue, and let's see him be absolutely brilliant in the Premier League. Um, but for now, I would need to go back and revisit him. I think to discuss a small bit more about him because you know, 12 to 18 months is a long time in football, and people can lose their form. Specifically when you're 27, would be 28 in the middle of the season. You should be coming into your peak seasons. Not to say he can't regain that form again, but it's just it's something that you know you got to take a player of what he can be and obviously what he is at this moment in time. It's important to know those two data points for a player when you're looking at him and and kind of make your decision then based on that. Uh, I think would certainly move headlines in lots of newspapers if Frank Kessie signed for Aston Villa. It really would because, as I say, he's a high-profile player in Africa, and he is a high-profile player on the European continent as well. You know, and somebody who has had some really, really great seasons as a footballer. Just this move to Barcelona. Well, it hasn't been tragic to move to Barcelona. Don't get me wrong, it hasn't been tragic. It just hasn't been as good as his time at AC Milan. It could be once again club factors. It could be intrinsic factors within the club. The fact that there was, you know, the club found its way of playing with the likes of Pedri and Gavi in there, and in fact, the Busquets that then was anchoring down the bottom of the defensive diamond and so on. So there could be an awful lot of differences there that could have been causing maybe the last season. So um, again, he's going to be a difficult person to look at because you're looking at what he's done now, knowing what he's done in the past, and trying to see can he do it again in the future. He's a different kind of proposition to somebody like Coutinho because it's not been injuries that have killed his career. It's been maybe the wrong move at the wrong time that has stunted his career so far. He's going to move. If he moves somewhere else, he will be fine. Like, but do we need somebody who's fine, or do we need somebody who can get back to where he was with AC Milan and with Atlanta? That's kind of my thoughts on him as well. Um, Where are we? I'm going to look at one more question there. I think I saw somebody mention. Why has the Weston McKennie rumor come back? He was abysmal at Leeds. I haven't seen it, but for me, Weston McKennie at Juventus uh, was 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 a really good player. Obviously won Serie A titles with Juventus, played in the Champions League and everything. Again, I'm going to say it, and it seems like it's been the theme of this podcast, but that Leeds team wasn't easy to play in, no matter who you were last season. You're coming from Jesse Marsh to Sam Allardyce. I'm just not sure that the direction of thought for a lot of those players that were at the club suited the players that were at the club. Specifically, we're bringing in the likes of a Sam Allardyce towards the end. It was there was a desperate act, I think, and they deserve to. They deserve better. I think Leeds fans deserve better than that at the end of the season. I do, and I always reluctant to speak about stuff like that with regards to what I would have done if I was in charge of another club, because there is a situation whereby like there was so much going on there. Obviously, they have new owners. They have a new manager now, and they can look forward. But Weston McKennie is I don't see him coming to Aston Villa. I don't see it. Albeit it wouldn't be because if he's played Leeds, it would just be I don't see him coming back to the Premier League. To Aston Villa. Right, that's going to do it. I'm so sorry for everybody that because this is supposed to be a massive Pau Torres podcast. Might have got 7 minutes on Pau Torres and 42 minutes and 49, 50, 51 seconds on ramblings and nonsense that I wanted to speak. As I say, Paddy will be back very, very soon. So don't worry, we're not going to have any more of these Neil Goes Off on Rants podcasts or many more of these over the rest of the off season. But I do thank everybody, all 200, nearly 300 of you that have been watching throughout the course of this. I really thank you. If you haven't given it a thumbs up, please give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed to the podcast, please subscribe to the podcast. I also completely and utterly forgot to mention what I said, what I popped in my tweet was we were going to give away a Pau Torres jersey to one lucky winner. All you got to do is find the tweet for this podcast on that old-fashioned platform. It's called Twitter. Retweet it with a screenshot of you being subscribed to the podcast on YouTube. Obviously, you have to be subscribed to the podcast on YouTube when I pick a winner, so that you can get the jersey. And let's try and grow the amount of YouTube subs that we have. But we will give away a Pau Torres home shirt to one lucky winner, and it will be announced on what date did I say? The 17th, which is next Monday. We will announce the winner of the Pau Torres shirt. So all you gotta do is retweet it with a screenshot of you being signed into YouTube and subscribe to this podcast. That's all you got to do. And we'll draw a lucky winner on Monday. So that's going to do it, everybody. Really, thank you so much for joining me tonight. Hope you liked the chat. There was little to no thought process went into this podcast other than answering the questions that you guys asked me, and I hope you enjoyed it. We will be back again really soon with another episode. And if anything breaks in the meantime, we'll be back to chat about it. But up the Pau Torres, up the Aston Villa. Everybody stay safe, stay healthy, and all that's left to say is up the Villa.